Today on our What Really Matters podcast episode, it's all about youth and crime violence. Today we've got on Clare Moody, who is a police crime commissioner. As well as that, we have got Kris and Elli from Avon and Somerset Police, and Leanne Reynolds as well, who's a knife crime activist. And let's see what comes from this. Looking forward to having a chat. Hello, thanks for coming, everyone. Nice bit of chit chat to start with. I won't go into it, but interesting. Shall we start off then today by if everyone just introduce themselves and go around the table, and we jump straight into it. Should we start with you, Elli?
Yeah, so I am Elli Campbell. I work for Avon and Somerset Police. It's my second time meeting you. Thanks for having us.
No problem.
Nice to see you again, Ben. I'm Kris Withers, a police officer with the Bristol Youth Justice Service. So seconded into Youth Justice Service in Bristol. Thank you, Kris.
Clare Moody, Avon and Somerset Police and Crime Commissioner. And good to see you again, Ben.
Good.
Leanne Reynolds, founder of Bin the Blade. Nice to see you again.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Well, so today we're going to jump into the questions. It's all around youth crime and violence. And yeah, I now need to put glasses on. So since the last time I've seen you all, they're going on. Understanding the problem. Youth violence in Bristol is often discussed through crime statistics. But what do you each believe are the real drivers behind it? And where do your perspectives most differ? Who wants to jump in with this first one? I can pick someone if we're a little bit worried.
I think I'll jump in, and then I'm sure others will have a lot more to say as well. But I think the drivers behind it, we know from so much evidence and so much research that there is a correlation between deprivation, poverty, in areas. There's links to education and what children's educational experiences are as well. So you've got these social drivers, if you like. So you're right to say that a lot of what's talked about with youth violence is framed around statistics. But actually, what we're talking about is children and their experiences and what determines outcomes for those young children. And it's getting underneath that reality rather than responding to statistics, getting ahead of and recognising what children are facing in their lives.
Yeah, no, I agree. Does anyone else want to jump in with that?
Exclusions. I'm going, it's called the exclusions. I think that is a spiral for me. Also their home life, and unfortunately where they actually live in parts of the city, and what's going on at home, and then school exclusions is a big thing, because I'd see, if you do look at statistics but facts, school exclusions, many of the children that are no longer in the city have been murdered, they were excluded. And reports are saying that, and we know, so we need to look at it and why.
There's a lot in this, isn't there? So I think it was probably one of you guys that I might have found out what I'm just about to say now, because it would have linked with police and crime and what have you. Other things as well, it's like learning challenges or learning differences. Yeah. Like, I've just gone through the process with my daughter and suddenly found out that you don't, find out if you're dyslexic or not without having to pay for it, which, in a lucky situation, we could pay for it. Yeah. But, I now know I am. And my family couldn't pay for it when I was that age, and I didn't even know it was a thing. But then I was listening to something the other day, and I think it was Jamie Oliver that was talking about it. Interesting. I didn't think it would come from him, and he was saying it's something like 50% of people that end up in prison find out they're dyslexic because you automatically get that free test.
Yeah.
Now, I could only imagine, and I'm making this assumption a little bit because obviously I don't know. I can only imagine. If someone's struggled throughout their whole time at school, and then they got a few of those other key factors, which are things like, one parent family, free school meals, all these kind of things, being suspended or excluded, that you're like 80-90% more likely to end up going to prison. If you chuck in the learning difference as well, then we definitely know who's going in that direction. very early, don't we? And it's like there's got to be more that we can do. And then when I found out, like I said, that with my daughter we'd have to pay for it, and how does it help? I mean, it would only help with in secondary school when you're doing tests and stuff like that, you get a bit more time. But I think if you knew that
It's
you
the difference it makes to
you weren't
you as a
you weren't
child.
thinking you were dumb, you weren't thinking you couldn't
Yeah.
didn't have anything to offer, your self-esteem and all that kind of
But
stuff.
validating, isn't it, for the young person? Yeah.
And there's other, everyone has their talents, don't they? And it's like knowing that, okay, that's not your talent, but you will have others. And we already know, don't we? There's lots of other things that, people are dyslexic. There's lots of things that people statistically, again, tend to be, quite good at, entrepreneurs and that kind of thing. Then direct your talents towards other stuff, or be supported to direct it
I think
to
that's
that.
the key, is the support as well. Sorry, Claire.
No.
We'll come back to you, Claire.
those unmet mental health needs, all those additional needs that haven't been picked up. And you can't work with those young people and add in all the ACEs and all the other things that you talked about and the exclusions and everything else. That's what drives it. It sort of sits beyond, and then the crime becomes more about fitting in or surviving rather than being around. I just want to be a naughty person, and do you know what I mean? It's all these things. So
I think the education system is. I think we spoke when we came here last time. It doesn't fit for everybody. It's very sort of. If we were having a conversation about, I wasn't particularly academic at school, and as much as I enjoyed it from a social point of view, did I get much out of it from educationally? Probably not, because we, like you said, we have different skills in different areas. You could be, I look at my own children. One's more practical than the other. One's more academic, and if you find what you're good at and you're actually put in a place where you can thrive. I think we were speaking downstairs. For me, it's about structure. As much as school, I didn't do as well as I probably could have done, and that's maybe down to me. It gave me that structure. So when I knew that I had to get up at that particular time, I had to be somewhere, and it enabled me to then make that transition from school to the working environment, because I was used to having that structure. And for me, I think a lot of the young people that we come in contact with, maybe they lack that structure. And I think Leanne is right to a degree, and it's easy for me to say, but it does come from the home as well. I mean, I was very fortunate when I grew up that I had, two very loving parents, and my children have been very lucky to have the same situation, where you have those boundaries, where you have that structure, and when things start to sort of go awry, you get pulled in, because you know what the possible consequences of if you don't do that. So I think definitely poverty and where you live plays a part, but I didn't come up from a particularly sort of wealthy background. Especially I grew up in not too far from here in Bedminster. So my nan was in the council house all her life, and she she had structure. Yes, there are reasons, and I think we always have those conversations, myself and Elli, when we talk. You want to know the why people do. It's important for us to understand the why, but also, it doesn't have to be that because of your circumstances. Is my opinion.
But you can always buck the trend. But I mean, it's not as simple as that.
No, it's not simple. It's not. I'm making it sound very simplistic. Life isn't.
That support for families as well, that sort of team around the child, team around the family. Because if you haven't got that structure that we're talking about, which a lot of young people don't have, who is then responsible? Is anyone responsible for supporting that family?
Yeah,
but I think
who's accountable?
Society should be,
and who's accountable?
But we all should be, because I'm going to sound like children are the future, which is the fact.
They are.
Yeah.
Say it.
It's true. It's true. And all we want is for them to have the best life that they possibly can, and whatever needs to be put in place for that to happen. As I said, we paint a very simplistic picture, but we just want to make sure that there is that, because you've said yourself in your own situation, you've had to pay money to establish that your daughter.
I couldn't believe it when I was talking to the school. It's just like, well, how does like so and 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 so? What's the deal with them?
And
how are they going to get the support? Well,
And
They don't.
and that's
So
the
there
thing.
wasn't,
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Well,
I love
that's
that
like
person, so I know it, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's just a...
And the waiting list
Yeah.
is so
Yeah.
long.
That's the other thing. It's
It's
like
the waiting
CAMHS and
list,
the
yeah,
referrals to
yeah.
these things. You can't.
No,
mental health
it's
services,
mental
it's-
health. So you've got to
Yeah,
really push.
separately.
You've got to be
Yeah.
very strong parent to get that service.
And a lot of these young people slip
They
through
do
gaps.
telephone calls and they're like, "Oh, you're doing great as a mum, but it's not me. The child needs help, and I can't provide that help." And when they are excluded from personal experience, the child comes home, and then they know what to do next time, so they'll do it again. Then they're back home, but that's what they want because they want to be home and they don't have to go to school. And it's knowing where to go. There used to be back. I'm not that old, but they're like a white book. Like you could go and look, and where we need it back, where we can find things. Yeah. Luckily, I was fortunate that I know people at the council, and I went to them and said, "I can't because you're at the end of your tether." And it's like, what am I meant to do? I've got a child that I'm thinking at school, and she sat in a park, and I had all that going on, and it was knowing what to do. And a lot of people don't know where to go, and you've got work. And you've also got to look after your
There
children.
is so much you can do, innit?
Yeah.
I guess that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing as well is like we're talking about, the statistics around this, but these spaces where young people used to hang out when we were kids, like they've had that funding completely cut, and schools are overstretched. And where do those young people go who haven't got the structure at home when they used to be able to go to a youth club, or they used to be, and now, like you said, they're in the park.
They seek some people to take them in. It's like that sense of belonging, and they've got their mobile phones. You've got Snapchat, so it's surprising now what young people do, meeting strangers, just like talk, because you can add people. I don't understand Snapchat, but you can just add people.
Don't go down, you don't want to.
And I'm like, what do you mean? You can just add someone? Well, yeah, I'm just talking to someone, and I was like,
it's mad, isn't it? Because in real life, you wouldn't just walk down the street and go, "Hey!"
I know.
That's a whole can of worms when you talk to social media.
And they're looking for belonging.
Yeah.
Parents are at work 8 hours a day, so they
as a society, we're not putting money into those services. So
No.
really, what do they expect?
I think we're
you know.
probably going to come into this a bit further down the line, but you're obviously on the money there. Claire, you were going to say something. Sorry, I know, just jump back to a bit
Way
later.
back, I was going to talk about children, and we talked about causal factors. We've covered the fact that there's huge complexity about this, but it's also about labelling and how those individual children are labelled. You were talking with dyslexia, neurodiversity of different kinds. And it's how adults label the children, and it's how they learn to label themselves as well, whether they're success or failure. So it's getting those places where those children can get positive reinforcement and not wind up on the path that Leanne was talking about. And it's how we give them those best opportunities in different ways.
I think it's a really good point, Claire, because many of the young people I work with, when you actually give them that positive reinforcement, they've never been spoken about in that way, never had any praise. And actually, we all know, not that I get praised very often, but it is uncomfortable when somebody sort of says something nice about you sometimes. But when you've never heard it, it's
I
so
think you're
difficult.
great, Chris.
Thank you, Paul.
I do.
But
even a
it's true, though, isn't it?
certificate after
Yeah,
you've done a
absolutely.
little workshop,
Yeah.
it means so much to some people.
does.
It's
If you don't hear it at home, you don't hear it from your peers. It's not something that you
don't create it for yourself.
You don't hear it at all.
No.
You're not actually academically hitting anything at school that gives someone the reason to go, that was great. Some of those ways that you would have potentially shined back in the day when there was more of those provisions, or some of those other things, different clubs, not necessarily youth clubs, that don't cost anything. That's the trouble. So suddenly, the other part of this labelling thing is the poverty thing, which you've already said about. You can't afford to go to some of these other things that are now around. Then where are you going to shine? We've all got different skills, but it's just, we're not all going to shine everywhere, are we? And as we know, I think the school situation is definitely one where it feels like there's a massive opportunity that the school system could be shaken up big style, and could at least create enough of an opportunity for where young people could all choose something that is their passion or their interest or something they really want to go towards, I don't know how that would work.
Who's
I know
brave enough to do it? Shake that?
Well, it's meant to be the school
Yeah.
system's meant to support young people in a situation
Yeah.
they've got skills for life. I struggle, and I know it's different. I've worked in mainstream education, so I know the school there. I struggle to see how it's setting everyone up to thrive.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for people working there having to work within the structure that's there.
Yeah.
It has to have a massive overhaul because it can't be tinkered about with because it's just so
And a lot of these schools,
limited.
a lot of these schools, they're now academies. And they're businesses.
Yeah.
They're a business. You know, they're not what school used to be, which is what we think of as school.
Yeah, it's changed.
Teachers doing the job to teach these kids. You know, it's a business.
And years ago they could create something and change what's being delivered or taught depending on the needs of that group because of a certain situation. Everything is so rigid now.
Yeah.
You can't
do
do it.
that.
Curriculum.
You know.
Got to hit them targets.
Anyway, this is not a dig at the education.
No, it's
crowd.
definitely not.
It's tough.
Tough.
There's a lot of teachers out there trying to
And
do
they
their
are doing their
best
best,
for their
you know?
children.
Yeah.
And it's fair to say most of them are in it for the right reasons and doing a hell of a lot. But
Absolutely.
tough times. So we jump into the next question. So prevention versus enforcement. So I think this is going to probably dip into some of that stuff you were talking about, Ellie. How well is Bristol currently balancing enforcement with prevention and early intervention for young people? And what needs to change if we're serious about reducing harm rather than just responding to it? Do you want to jump back in on that point?
I think the last part of that is about, what do we need to do? And I think it does go back to being serious about funding, making early intervention not a nice to have. Like it needs to be, we need to be serious about early intervention. And when we say early intervention, it needs to be early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of our services are working with young people. It's called early intervention, but actually these young people are already sort of entrenched.
Isn't it?
And what kind of ages for people out there what kind of ages are you talking about? So you're working
What,
with?
early intervention?
No, as in that you're working with now, but we know that and we all know that it probably needs to be earlier.
So I work with years 5 and 6 is an age that I go in and talk to young people, which I think is key. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in terms of like that engagement side of things from a policing perspective, that I believe we should be doing that from the get-go, just to build those relationships. But yeah, I don't know, it's tricky. People have different ideas about what early intervention is and what age we should be, working with these young people. But it differs, doesn't it? From
I think with
area
the
and-
violence reduction partnership that run through my office as well, which is looking at that early intervention piece very much. It's 7 to 25, but 7 is the age that starts. And the work that is there. I think with all of this, the earlier the better. We used to have sure start centres.
I thought you might mention this.
They were great. Yes, exactly. It's a tragedy that they were done away with over a period of years through austerity, all of that. So, that was vital in catching those children where they don't necessarily have structure or where they don't have the opportunities or where there's some kind of neurodiversity or other areas. And if you catch those little people and can support them and put them on a different path and give their families the support.
I was going to
that
say,
they need.
that links in what you were saying as well.
Exactly.
That
They
was
used
the thing as
to
well,
have,
wasn't it?
I'm
Family
sure it was the
support as
police
well.
used to run a programme.
Splash.
Splash.
That's
Yes.
it.
Owen!
Yeah.
Big O! We used to do
Yes.
it with
We run it,
Edwards up on Philwood
that
Fields.
was like, they loved it. Like
I never realised that was a police programme.
Yeah, it was
all
really
over
good,
that.
and that's
Awesome.
like from
Yeah.
like 6, 7, 8. You've got the little mini police cadets in it. Have we got?
They
little-
still there.
Yeah,
We've still got
but
those.
I think primary school is all right going into senior school, but some of them have already lost their way, and it's third generation, so they have younger siblings. So I go in to some education, and they're like 8 and 9, and they're on the periphery of like getting into trouble, being like picked up by the police. And I just think it's trying to rein them back in.
It's what you
But
see.
it's their
normal,
age.
isn't it?
They're not understanding. I don't think they understand how serious oh, we're just
Probably
walking with a
copying
knife, but
what they see.
yeah,
If it's only not normal if you're told it's not normal by someone that
Yeah.
cares for you, that you've got a relationship
Yeah.
with. I heard something, this might be quite interesting. I heard something not that long ago. It was out of the council funded youth provisions, I think it was 60% are working with up to 14-year-olds. And really most of it was under that, really, up to 13-year-olds. And then 40% was that older age range, which you would say probably is traditional kind of youth club, kind of teenage age range. So that begs a question to me, because I think for any of us that have worked with young people and all the rest of it, it is easier to work with young ones.
yeah,
There's no doubt. I don't think anyone will deny this. It is. And as we know, this is the thing that we need to do, the intervention, to engage these young people earlier. And I wonder whether it's because there's limited provisions that are providing that stuff for the older age ranges, which there is compared to years gone by, or if what's being provided isn't maybe what's needed now, what young people want now. Is it like evolved to be what's needed? But I think the challenge is if you're working with that younger age range, for me, it's like, going through a youth club system, whatever, back in the day, you built that relationship when you're young.
Yeah.
And because of that relationship, you carry on all the way through. It
it's
literally is the
structure. It brings
relationship.
back to structure again, because like we were saying, you're structured. You get up, you go to school, you go to youth club 3 nights a week from like 6 to like, but now it's the age because of the funding, the age
You
range.
might have one
change.
juniors night.
Yeah.
If there's a youth club in your community a week, one
And
one seniors night.
Yeah.
So we are now seeing some more investment going back into, for example, Youth Hub in Bristol, getting that kind of support, because there is a recognition that that's a massive gap. So I think, it's getting back into that direction, and we are seeing funding for that start now as well. So,
I'm glad, because if you break it down in a real simple way, you're 3 times more likely to be out of school than you are in it. If you're in school for 1/4 of your time, then evenings is another quarter, weekends is another quarter, school holidays is another quarter. If we can't really back and fund the things that matter when kids are out of school, then we are on a losing streak, because not everyone has what Kris was talking about, that structure around them.
And that's why the funding is coming back in for that. And there has been a recognition that that
it's so
needs to be
important,
reinforced.
that wasn't recognised for a long time. We could see this funding being cut, and people working where we work were saying, this is mad. Like, you can see the fallout quite quickly.
Exactly.
And it takes years for that to sort of be recognised by people like,
And
here, we've got the
rebuilt.
money, and then they go, that's what's been going wrong. And we're like, well, we've been trying to tell you this for...
They're on the streets because they have nowhere to go. There's no...
Well, it's choices. It's always about the political choices you make around money. And we are now seeing those choices being made, that actually an investment. It's an investment in our young people.
And that's what we were saying yesterday, wasn't it? It's like the things that you would stop, the crimes that you might stop by having this stuff. Financially, actually, you're probably better off, it's
as a
like
whole
intervention.
society. Exactly that.
Which goes back to your question. Prevention is definitely better than enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, even from, you're talking about, based from a financial point of view, it is. But I think from a policing point of view, it's getting in there early to build up those trusting relationships with, certain communities who might not be so trusting within the police. I know we obviously, our paths crossed when I was a school beat officer in a couple of schools in South Bristol. And I know that those positions are not currently there now, but I know, and we had to chat about it yesterday. We built so much trust between the children, the staff within the school, but also the community and the families. Honestly, it was a privilege to do that role. I loved it.
Even randomly, the young person that I spoke to about putting a question in, she knows you from that same time.
Right, okay.
People do.
Really?
People do. Anyway, I'm not going to let you go too red.
No.
But there was a big up. There was a.
But I remember
thank you.
my beat
Thank
officer, he wasn't then, it was about, like, he wasn't called that, but we remember our local police officer.
Yeah.
He used to come round, he'd catch you and he'd be like, I'm telling your dad. Go and tell him before I tell him.
We had all that as well.
Yes.
They send your mum up and say,
Yeah.
"You go up there. I'll be there in 5 minutes."
Yeah, they
Get
would.
ready.
But it worked because you were like, only just like nothing major, but that worked. And we all know him now from school days. We all remember his name. He's retired in that, but we all remember him.
But that's the
and
idea,
that's what
isn't
you
it? That's
want.
what you want.
They had police in school, so when my daughters went to school, they had a police officer in the school, and they all talked about him. They all went to him. They were quite happy.
Yeah.
That's exactly one of
What
the
we
reasons
want,
why
yeah.
we're reinforcing the neighbourhood policing.
It's like that's to build that
enablement
relationship, and I think if you had organisations in the community that worked with them and built up that trust, where you say, look, we have to work together, because if there's no partnership working, it's not going to work.
I agree. I think I was chatting to some of your colleagues the other day, Kris and Elli, about actually that. I mean, and I absolutely agree with what you're saying. It is investment in young people at the end of the day, and there is more happening now. I guess the only challenge with that would be is that it goes to a diverse offering to young people, because not every young person will engage in the same thing. And that's what we need to do, and how that money gets distributed to provide that diverse offering. It's a challenge. Like, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So it's I'm sure most people would agree with that. Just something hot off that as well. It's like, I absolutely agree with the difference. Some parents, interestingly, were like, if you got a police officer in the school, they'd think, why have you got a police officer in the school? Thinking that it's to do with, knife crime and enforcement.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there could be some of that. It's not. It's exactly what we're talking about. And those relationships from that early age, knowing that, the person at the road that's walking the streets is looking after you, It's a person.
Police
Do you know
are
what I mean?
involved in prevention.
Yes.
They're not all about enforcement. So, I've just agreed some funding for something called POLED, which was developed by West York's police, which is about education in schools that is about getting in front of that, a lot of problems, so working with children, but normalising the presence of police as part of the solution, not as something that comes in from
When there's a
outside,
problem.
but is
'Cause at
in the
that point,
community, involved in the schools, part of the conversation locally, remembered by children into their adulthood of we'll talk to that person, or didn't want to get on the wrong
good
side.
to hear, though, Claire, you said about neighbourhood policing having come from that background, and honestly, the thing you ask most police officers why they join the police. In fact, I had a conversation with a young person yesterday, and I said, "Why do you think I joined the police?" She said, "To help people," which I was really relieved to hear.
Yeah.
And I said, exactly that.
Exactly.
Genuinely, if you ask,
Yeah.
but if you ask, if you ask most police officers, why do you join this job? Is to help people.
Yeah.
And it is about prevention. I mean, neighbourhood policing, I think, is key to that. You're so fundamental to the community. I know we discussed it when we came in last time, but I was fortunate enough to be the beat manager for the area that I grew up in, which was great because you felt really invested in it, because I'm from the same streets, so you are invested. But the amount of brilliant work that I started blowing my own trumpet. But that we were involved in bridging that gap between, like I said, the community, and being able to build that trust between the community and the police, I think is crucial.
Yeah.
Why do you think that doesn't happen so much? Because I think it does happen, but I would guess that part of the problem, it's not a massive guess, but I'm guessing that part of it is going to be the same issue with youth provisions and everything else. Funding, the amount of people on the street. I mean, there's only so much you can do if there's four, people out on each night in a certain area or something. Like, what are you meant to do? You're not Superman and Superwoman, are you? Do you know what I mean?
And you're right, and it is about those actual physical resources of people. And at the moment, if we've got officers who have agreed to go into a school to deliver a session, that is going to be bumped for something else. It's always going to go to the bottom of the list. If something else happens, that session is now cancelled for whatever reason, because they've got to do something else.
There's
There
always
aren't
priorities.
enough people.
Sorry, go on, Claire.
Yeah, no, it is. That point precisely is one of the focuses of my area of work, if you like, is how we actually can keep resources in pockets, so to speak, so they're ring fenced, if you like, so that we can try to ensure that is somehow protected as much as possible.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding, if there's a major event, you're going to have police doing
it's a difficult balance that, Claire, and
exactly.
As you say, I mean, priorities. You never know what you're coming into, and you can have all the best laid plans in the world.
Yeah.
Many times you've gone in on a shift, have a late shift in. I need to do that. I need to, but unfortunately,
you're not in control of it. People do.
You're not. And that's just the nature of the job. But yeah, I think neighbourhood policing is crucial. I really do.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say as well. So the meeting I was going to try and get you at. The reason why I wanted to invite you, and we'd spoken to police and other people in the community, is specifically for that kind of thing. So there's loads of young people, as you can imagine. You'll know, Leanne, that won't go to youth provisions or aren't allowed into those youth provisions if they exist. They're normally people that may not have done that well in education. They might be in a bit of that kind of journey we've already spoken about. So the thing that we were chatting to police and we're chatting to people from the council about as well is there needs to be some stepping stones, because there's a whole load of investment, as you've already pointed out, that is going to be around this area, for example.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that everyone can actually engage in it. Otherwise, there's going to be a load more challenges that come from that. I'm not going to go into that in much more detail. I think it's fairly obvious, but I think there's something. The thing that we were trying to kind of work towards was trying to do something. So we do detached youth work, which is out on the streets.
Yes.
But then there's another stepping stone called Street Club, which is nothing that's going to reinvent the wheel, but it's something that's in a space, say it's at Morrison, say it's Newquay Road, wherever it is, Fieldwood Broadway, and it's that same space every week. Young people know to come there, and then you provide a variety of different discussion-based, different activities as time goes on, trips, various things that's similar to a youth club, but allow these young people to choose to turn up under their own steam. If they want to go away, they go away. If they want to come in, they come in. And then hopefully they learn enough about how they would be able to then go and engage within a youth provision. Because otherwise, what's going to happen if you've never been in these kind of places and the lines are pretty hard, 3 strikes and you're out, there is a lot of people that are not, bear in mind where the communities that we live in, do you know what I mean? Are not going to be able to engage in that because they haven't experienced it before. So for me, this is the thing that we've based this on, chatting to young people that are in that situation over a period of time. That's what we were chatting to police and council about. And hopefully there might be another discussion with yourself about basically having 3 different sessions, detached multi-sports and the street club in Knoll West and in Hartcliffe, 3 sessions a week that's out in the streets. So then hopefully there's a stepping stone to these young people being able to learn different life skills to be able to benefit from these amazing things. Because otherwise there's still going to be a little bit of us and them. And I'm preaching to the converted, but I think
I'm the chair in Fieldwood Broadway at a youth provision. So we have a lot of young people there that won't access anywhere else. Yeah. And in the Easter, we didn't have the funding to do anything because the funding was cut.
Street space. I didn't realise you got involved in that.
Yeah, a long time, Okay. So we didn't have funding for Easter to run the sessions because it was taken. But I have a project on Leinster Avenue, which is my telephone box. Yeah. So the youths come there and we started sanding it down. So we're turning the telephone box into a medical station like we did in Portland Square. So all them youths, I just the youth workers contacted them. They all turn up. So you'll start seeing them out because instead of them walking around the street, we were like, just come and help her. So they turn up and then it's gone massive now because the community are like, well, we want to help. We live in this street, so I'm like, we've got a date now.
If you bring things, people get involved. It's got to be the right people involved leading. It's no different in a class.
They feel left out. Some people feel left out, so they want to get involved. They're like, I want to do this.
We did, I think. Do you remember at Emerson's Green in the car park at Sainsbury's? There was an issue with, I think it was ASB. So we just rocked up there and we put up 2 football goals.
Bristol City, wasn't it?
Yep.
And we got Sainsbury's donated a load of our stuff. A load of food, and slowly but surely they all trickled in on their bikes, and then they started playing football, and But again, we did it once because we didn't have the money.
No.
Yeah.
So it's
And some
those
people
sorts
really
of
like
things.
that. Them youths really like it.
Consistency
Morrison's
as well is
car
the
park,
key.
they just like it
Yeah.
because they're not in a building.
No.
They can come and go. They,
And we're
you
going
know,
to their space. And, it's
and they
like,
feel safe with the people that's running the sessions. The youth workers are amazing that cover both
Yeah.
Hartcliffe and Knowle.
But you know, all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah,
Laura,
so
Laura and Hartcliffe,
it's
Evelyn
that
and
challenge
Noel,
now
from those
is to
areas,
and also to their parents, trying to involve their parents to educate their parents that this issue needs to be like disappearing.
I think if you've got the consistency of the funding and you've
Yeah.
got locally trained staff that are embedded in those
Yeah,
communities, and don't get me wrong,
100%.
it could be blended with people from here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not about they have to be from that area, but
No.
you've got that blend. You've got young people part of the delivery that have come up through, experienced those sessions and those kind of provisions. Then they're another little conduit between the older youth workers and the young people, and you're creating that system.
Yeah,
and we've had that
safe
system for I don't know
spaces,
how
I
long,
know.
but the trouble is you need to meet,
It needs
continue
to be,
it,
yeah.
because it is all relationship driven. And if you suddenly, you've got a year or two that's broken, you have to start again. So I guess it was just more about saying we need to provide for the wider kind of
The
age
ones that don't
ranges of
fit
young
the
people.
box.
Because I always
Not
say
everyone wants
not
to
the
go
shiny
to a
kids.
massive Not everyone wants to go to a massive youth centre. They're quite overwhelmed. They want to be in little spaces where they lounge on a sofa. They can come and go, so you've got access for them to come in and out. And that's what I think is provided over here between Hartcliffe and Knowle, some provisions.
Yeah, like you said, it's the diversity of offering that will engage all young people. But
Yeah.
let's not go on too much about that because we spoke about that before.
No, leave it there.
Okay, so on to the next question.
Sorry.
So trust, accountability in the future. So trust between young people, communities and institutions is fragile. What concrete actions should police, commissioners and communities take now to rebuild trust and prevent the next generation being pulled into violence?
It's two-way communication as well. It's listening to young people. So it's the presence that we've talked about. So knowing people and that relationship, and that takes time and consistency that we've talked about too. But it is also about there being the young people having a voice, having a say in the provision, in the relationship, that it's not just them being spoken to and told what to do, that there is, they have a role, they have agency in the relationship too. So yeah, I think that's part of the trust. Yeah, as I say, relationships, consistency and two-way communication.
Yeah, and it goes back to that thing we talked about, getting in early intervention, getting in early. If you've had a police officer or someone from the police or someone in uniform, someone with authority engaging with you from an early age,
Yeah.
you're not seen as someone who is just turning up when things go wrong. This person's here to help me. I can talk to this person. I know who to, and that's built over time, isn't it?
And not seen as a danger, you're seen as a conduit to safety. That matters.
It's funny you say about consistency. So when we were speaking about the last sort of question, I think relationship and having that consistency is key, because a lot of the young people, they'll have professionals come into their lives for a certain amount of time. They become quite reliant on those professionals. I'm thinking about it from a youth justice service point of view, because we might only be there for a short period of time and then we pull away. But like the youth clubs, I know we're going to a different subject, but that having that consistency for them, and making sure that they've got those trusted adults that are there on a consistent basis, that's key. And I guess it it comes down to financing, money, and all of those things, I suppose. But sadly, a lot of the young people that we work with, they're so used to people just coming in and out of their lives, and we got to make sure that there is that consistency there, that they can build up that trust. Now, from a policing point of view, I suppose ideally what you would like is, like you talked about, Leanne, about having the Bobby on the beat that you remember, is trying to get I think, to be fair, one of the things I will say about the police is, and why I love being a police officer, is that there's different roles that suit you as a person. For me, it was always going to be about community policing, and thankfully I ended up working with the Youth Justice Service, which I'm so grateful for now. But it suits my personality. So it's making sure you have, well, I'm going to say like a football saying, yeah.
No, but I know what you mean. You
rank
do the
pegs
different
and rank
jobs.
holes.
Yeah.
You know,
The right
and
people for the job.
like, you know, I remember a police officer up in Whitchurch where we grew up. If I remember being took home with him holding my ear, you know, I'm more worried about how my mother would react to what I brought home. But he was there, and he was a beat officer for years and years and years, and we knew who he was, and we trusted him. So yeah, it is about having. I think it is all about consistency.
Agree. Yeah, has anyone else got anything to
Accountability.
Yeah.
explain that a bit?
I will go back to, I feel if we look at the tragedies, which is the saddest part of it, there's no accountability. Council, say like social services, when you look at the reports, and they're similar over the years from when I've been doing it, and they're just, these people are still in their same job saying sorry, and we couldn't, like, we failed. And I think accountability should be for all levels. And funding, I think you should be accountable for funding. So if you are given funding, at the moment there is some, but there's a lot of funding that's gone out, and we don't actually see what's being done from my...
What are the outcomes?
Yeah, I don't see what, you know, oh, he's great. Well, what have you actually done for the community? There's a lot of work that's being done by people that are not paid, and you can see it because they're out there on the ground.
There's a passion in people that's going to do something that isn't going to get paid for. That isn't always the case.
No, and the 9 to 5 don't work for me, because we've got these young people after 5 o'clock. Weekends, it's what we doing? Because that 9 to 5 council, say for options by, we're finished 5 o'clock, they're gone home. So what happens after them hours? I think it needs to change. We need to be looking at it a more different timing and weekends. You know, if you were homeless, you have to ring this number after 5 o'clock, and it takes hours to get through, for instance. So what do we do if you're in crisis at the weekend? You're a mum at the weekend, you found a weapon in your son's bedroom, what do you do? So it's people that are not paid and voluntary organisations that are picking up them calls or getting the messages saying, what do I do now? I've just found a knife, what do I do? And it's having the right, you know, direction to put them in. You have Fearless, which I rely on quite a lot, because I feel you're getting the information where it's anonymous and it's safe. So I tell them you can report it in your room. No one needs to know. If you don't tell no one knows. But this 9 to 5, it's a bit, I think we've passed that now, because we've got evening and weekends.
How do you think that needs to change? So do you mean that, because let's be honest, like people like the council, there's not that, I suppose it's different when it comes to crime and criminality and that kind of stuff. But how many people are actually on the ground working with the young people face to face? It's not, that's a lot of that has been stripped away. I mean, I can only talk about youth work, really. I'm not so much engaged in that as I used to be, as in with youth violence and crime. So, but how much face to face support that may go on after those hours, actually, you know, after 5 o'clock, how much of that does happen?
A lot, especially
but from, say, the
yeah.
council, is it statutory, or is it all voluntary sector?
Voluntary. I would say it's more voluntary, or they reach out to people that are in their communities and look for help. So it's someone that's, you might have an organisation but not getting paid, or you've got no funding for it.
It says community organisations.
Yeah, it's community. It goes back to community. Yeah. And they'll people will contact you all hours, and it's obviously you can't pick everything up, and sometimes you pick it up in the morning, but it's happening all the time. At 5 o'clock or when the school closes, the issue don't go away. And I find with this youth violence, we see a lot of it at night time. These people that are ingrained in this or in these little lifestyles, they're coming out at 5, 6 o'clock at night, and it is a totally different environment than what it would be in the day. For arguments, you go into a city park in the daytime, there's a few young children hanging around, things going on, but then you go back there, like say 7, 8, it's a totally different environment. and different faces.
I mean, this is the thing. I know this conversation kind of like it goes round, and it probably will keep touching on the same things we're saying, which is like so frustrating, because I think probably the nucleus of a lot of these discussions ends up hitting on the same thing. And this is not why I'm doing this, by the way. Claire, do you want to jump in a minute before I suddenly? Because I could just.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep. Yeah, I could just jump in, but
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd pick up on is the richness in Bristol of community organisations. There's a real depth and quality to the support that is there in those community organisations, and it's really important from a commissioning perspective that you do engage as far as possible with those, because there's a responsiveness and understanding. Some are specifically focused on particular groups, some are focused in particular localities, but there's that consistency, that understanding. So you've got larger provision for some things, but also an ability to work with smaller groups that have that specialist knowledge,
and trusting that those community groups do know their community, they know their kids, they know their families, and how can we as statutory agencies support them with that work outside of that 9 to 5.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, because what you're talking about is part of the stuff we do. Do you know what I mean? Like with detached youth work out on the streets, engaging young people where they choose to be. Like we were saying about street clubs, something else that's slightly different, to trying to be able to create that stepping stone so young people can actually then get into these youth provisions and enjoy them. And I guess the problem is you have these staff that have got loads of experience from these communities that have built those relationships over time, but how can you keep that consistency? Because that consistency is everything. And that is, it's the intervention, it's the supporting with life skills and all the rest of it, and then it's diverting and to other opportunities that are out there. And I guess the problem is, I can only talk about us. If those solid workers that previously worked for the youth service, they have full-time jobs elsewhere, if they're not around, people might, things come into fashion and out of fashion, but if they're not around because there's stops, which it quite easily could, like we're paying on our reserves or whatever now for the detached stuff, if that stops, they'll go off and have to get more work in something else. Now, this is specialist stuff. To make those relationships in those kind of situations, and to be able to make a difference to young people's lives. And then what happens? We're bringing people in with no experience of that kind of work, because it hasn't been a thing that's been happening for a long time, widespread. It's not, I can say it now, like it's absolutely not a priority for the council funding, because we were previously funded to do detached through the council. It was ring fenced, and more recently that has been taken away because of money's gone into other things, which is basically open access youth provision, which I absolutely get is needed. Do you know what I mean? That's my background, that's what I've come through. But I think we need to remember everything that you're talking about there, Leanne, if you don't have those people with the ability to intervene, to make those relationships in sometimes tricky, difficult situations, there's links as well, conversations with the police about how things can be worked out better and how things can be resolved without necessarily running straight in there. It's a little network, and the network is holding on by a thread. And I wasn't going to jump in and say it, but because you just said that, it's the truth. That's what we've just been.
It's a lot of work you've put into it, and
there's
you're
others
not
doing
going to
it
be
as
able
well.
to provide it. There's quite a lot of provisions, but we're all having the money cut, and we just don't know what to do.
If you don't have the consistency of those people that have been around forever and a day as well, training the next generation, which is what we're trying to create, then it is absolutely those skills that need to be passed on for this to continue, because this is not going to go away.
No.
But the skill sets will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we all have doing what we do individually, have a duty to pass on that skill set, that knowledge. But it goes back to what we've said, like you said from the beginning, if these youth community projects, whatever they might be, are not funded, they're not. They are.
I feel for you guys as well, because I have these discussions with the and like, because the difference, you've seen it firsthand. Like we've done a pilot with the police recently, which is how the street club has come about, building that relationship with the police with young people that wouldn't be going to school, that are involved in this, that and the other, and are probably going in that direction. To make that engagement and through the support of youth workers is huge. We wouldn't do it to jeopardise our relationship with young people, because that would absolutely just, in the end, be more of a negative problem. But if you do it soft touch over time, and the police hold back with some of the things they would have to do normally when they engage young people and certain things get said, we can prove that it works. Both
We have
from the
done
police,
things.
from young people, and from us. So it's like, you know, that's not everything we want to be doing all the time, because we know that won't work for everyone. But as a piece of work, maybe that does need to continue, because you don't have the capacity, we don't have the capacity, and we need to do something with these young people that's a positive move. Otherwise, what are we expecting? Sorry, why did I get my soapbox? Does anyone else want to jump in? It's only because this is red hot conversations this week about this. Does anyone else want to add anything, or should I jump into the next question?
Go for it.
You good?
Go for the
Okay.
next one.
So, young person's question. Do you remember Tanika Green? You might not. You worked with the founders. Sheldon.
Bempston School.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Sheldon is her brother.
Okay.
So, Tanika, someone supported.
Yeah.
She does remember you, because when I said, oh yeah, so-and-so's on it, so she went, Kris! And there was a few other comments, but basically it was legend.
Oh, well, thank you. That's really kind. That's my best regards.
Yeah, no, I will do. Well, she'll hear this.
Yes, okay.
So yeah, Tanika Green from Outcliffe, South Bristol. Her question is, what age do you think young people are most vulnerable to be involved in and influenced by gangs, gang-related crime, violence or knife crime? How do you think we can keep young people safe and not negatively influenced by what is going on?
I'll start. I'm going to go with the transition from primary school to senior school. That period of time in the summer holidays where they're transitioning. That's where they're most vulnerable. That's where they start meeting new people, building different relationships and friendships.
Figuring out who they are, that identity stuff.
I'd say that age. I have met, unfortunately, some young people in the city that are younger, that have been involved, third generation. But it's that transition in time from primary to senior school, and they're just going in. That to me is the prime time where,
you're a big fish in a little pond, aren't you, in year 6? And then all of a sudden, and these schools nowadays, thousands of kids,
and they're
in
huge, and you're walking into like a concrete big school, you know, and there's people around that are not nice, and they're watching the last one come in, or they don't necessarily fit in with everyone else, not got, you know, and that's the most.
It's fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fear of not fitting in. So you act in a certain way, feeling like you would fit in.
Yeah.
And the reality of those behaviours probably means that you're not going to fit in with most.
Such an awful time, isn't it?
Yeah.
That age is, at the best of times, it's not easy.
So they do the like the summer camps, you know, like the schools where your child, you can go there and you get to know the school, which gives them some kind of, like, you can get to know the environment, and then going how you're going to get to school and work it out. But
Actually, I remember being involved in that at one of the schools that I was working at.
Oh, I think I was at one of those.
So we did.
What, the transition thing?
So the transition,
Yeah.
so we
We used to
had
do,
certain... The primary schools chose certain young people that they felt would benefit from having that. And we had like a week-long programme.
Yeah.
Because you did the
I can't remember what bits I've done, but it was
Lee Woods.
Oh, right, okay.
Where we did the
like
Whitley
forest
Woods.
stuff.
Forest,
it was brilliant, you know, those things. So yeah, I think you're right. I think, and also I think year 7 to year 8, so that's another
something
sort of
happens
something
over that
happens
summer
Yeah.
as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, thank God we're out of year 7 now.
They think they're big now. I've done the first year.
It's a really because you think back. I remember going to Bempston School when I was a kid, and it's a massive step from that safety of junior school and feeling You know, you feel
Small
you feel,
community.
You feel loved,
Yeah.
don't you? There, and then all of a sudden
You're on your
you're
own.
on your own. It's true.
It's a
isn't it?
weird
It's
bit. I remember
scary.
The
feeling like, I'm
uniform
not
is always
supposed to be
too
here.
big. You've
It
got this
is.
massive coat
Getting your
on.
own
You'll grow
lunch.
into it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
And you're
Weird,
going
isn't
from
it?
being the oldest
Yes.
to being the youngest
Yeah.
and the
and they're
smallest.
so little,
Yeah.
some of them. They're
Yeah.
really little now, and it's like you're really at senior school. It's just, it's daunting.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
Yeah.
And there's always one that's just like not going to be nice. And then they get that bad experience within a couple of months. So yeah, I think
Puts
that's
you
for me.
off.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, and we talked about this yesterday, didn't we, about vulnerabilities, is that remembering that doesn't just end at 18. Like, you don't just turn 18 and you're an
Absolutely.
adult.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like you could have been, I don't know, for example, looked after child, so you've had all this support around you, and then
Yeah.
you turn 18 and they're like,
Yeah,
off
leaving
you go,
care team.
You're on your own.
and you're on
Yeah,
your
it's
own, and
not-
that is
yeah.
a huge
Yeah.
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I think we forget that. We think you turn 18 and you're suddenly an adult. We were talking
Yeah.
about our kids, weren't we, who
Yeah.
are in their early 20s, and it's like, they're still our, you know, they still need the
They'll always be
support.
our
We
children.
still give them
Exactly.
the support, you
Yeah.
know. But again, like we talked about earlier, not everybody has that. Not everyone has those.
And it's a piece of work. I talked about the violence reduction partnership earlier, and
Yeah.
it did say it goes up to 25
Yeah.
precisely because there is that later
Yeah.
transition
Yeah.
point. And
Even from leaving
needs
school to
looking-
college
It
is
needs
like
looking at, doesn't it?
totally,
For the age
college
ranges,
is
I think.
scary. Like you walk in and
That's
there's
another big
hundreds of
jump, isn't it?
people.
Yeah.
And what they don't realise with colleges, if you've got a young person coming from an alternative provision or hospital education, they can't just get in. They've not gone into school. The attendants, they keep banging on, you're attendant. Well, they can't, you know, we're getting them, slowly bringing them in. Like, and they're not going to be there all the time, but as soon as that attendance is dropped, it's just like we can't keep her. And then it just, you know,
Same thing
and
all over again.
Is it nothing to
it
do
gets,
with that?
yeah, and it gets to the end. You're like 2 months, 3 months before, their attendances, and they want to get rid of them. It's like, what do you mean? I find it a real big challenge how they just, because the attendance, but their work's great. You've passed all your exams, you've done your assignments, but that attendance, and it really gives me a problem because I just don't get it. The same as uniform. Yeah, you should go to school with a certain attire, but you haven't got the right shoes on. Just let the person learn, because they're more vulnerable when you send them to walk home because a parent can't pick them up, and then they're finding their way home because they've got a different pair of shoes on.
Yeah.
Shoes don't matter, that they ain't going to learn. But it's rules, and it's
Like
about...
fighting a battle, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if you get somebody through the door at a school, and like you say, they're maybe not wearing the right
They'll all do it.
shoes.
Take the win.
Listen,
Yeah.
I do understand that there has to be rules, and
Yes.
we have to adhere to that because that's part of society.
Yeah.
But sometimes, actually, you know, if we dig
That is
in,
their
if we
safe
dig in with those young
space,
people,
yeah.
like I say, sometimes it feels it's too simple.
Yeah.
The attendance is not. So you go, but if you dug in,
You'll
and
find there could be an
they
issue.
might flourish.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is actually
Yeah.
having that sticking with those young people and saying, actually, it's difficult for you at the moment, but we are going to stick with you. We've got faith in you, and they could flourish. But if you just pull the plug, that's what they've been used to.
Yeah.
You know, said they're no good, or you're a failure. But if you just say, well, actually, you're not. We're sticking with you. You know, you're going through some difficult times, but we're going to stick with you.
And they'll
And
talk
you'll
to
watch
you.
it
that's
flourish.
really important as
Yeah.
well, being able to spot those difficult times.
Yes.
When children are going through what gets called adverse childhood experience of some kind, losing a relative, or something's happening, or there's
Yeah.
abuse or something going on, that there is a recognition of that, and that flexibility you talk to, because you've got to balance the structure
Of course you have.
with the recognition that this is an individual and they are facing some real tough stuff, and that's when you've got to have the support there, where you've got to have that responsiveness to the
Yeah.
emotional experiences of
You know
those
something's
children.
not right. I always say, if you feel it's not right, it's not right. So when I worked in South Bristol at further education, we had a few that used to come late, and they had uniforms to put on, but they wouldn't have them on. And it took a while, but they're coming from a different part of Bristol, so they didn't want to travel, so that
In
if
that
they
uniform.
passed someone and they knew where they were going.
Yeah.
So it was a real big problem, but they're late. And I'm like, just give me time as support, because there's something underlining and I need to get to the bottom of it. And they were like, you could just go down, say for instance, you could just go down one road, but they're like, we can't go down that road. We've got to go round. And it was just as simple as that. And then having that conversation with the teacher and saying, this is what's going on, and just being a bit flexible to keep them there. Because some people, their schooling is like, in COVID, we realised that they were safer coming into that provision than they would be at home. We knew they had a hot meal. We knew they were safe. And so that seems like it just disappears. People forget. It's like, you know, we have to really look at people and what's going on and take time. They're not going to tell you today. I can meet a young person in about 3 months, they might come and say, do you know that I've got this issue? And I've been there and I've been speaking to a young person and they just suddenly come and went, I got a real big problem.
I feel like they can trust you.
And I'm like, what's the problem? And then, you know, they're like, don't call the police. I said, well, no, let's see how we can work it out. And it's the same with knife crime specifically. There's a big issue around carrying a weapon to a surrender bin in the community. So we've got the bins in the community and it comes up all the time. They're like, if I'm walking with it, I said, but are you taking it?
Then you look a certain way to other people.
Yeah, and you know, what provision is there if you're taking it to the surrender bin? Will I get stopped? Because I said, if you're going with it and it's wrapped up, then it's going there. But if it's in your trousers and you're walking to surrender it, I would be in two minds to wonder what you're doing, because you know, so that comes up
as a young person by doing that. Do you know what I mean? Because of how you're seen by others.
Yeah, so it's difficult. I'll negotiate with some young people and say, look, as a trusted person, I will attend or meet you there, because you know, and they're less like there's someone watching me, and I'm like, there's no one watching you. You can put it in and walk away. That's the whole idea of it. But it's being a bit flexible with them, but also knowing there is that boundary. And if you're handing it in, it would be, you ain't going to walk with it in your trousers. You would have it wrapped up and potentially in a rucksack or something like that. And it's educating them. So, because they're coming in, the weapons are coming in. So it's working.
Well, it might be a good time to talk about what we do. So you know, we're involved in Blunt Truth Workshop, which we've had some funding. So thank you, Claire, to make a new film, which we made, which is part of the workshop. And actually, within it, I don't want to give too much away, but we're encouraging about surrender bins. And there's a real focus on that, and it is. Because we had quite a nice conversation, because it's a group of lads that encourage this one person. I don't want to give too much away, but the right direction. And to just say, you know, you can do this, and they support him to do that. And I know it's in a film, but hopefully when it's seen, it will encourage, you know, young people to support.
And that is happening. We see it. Really I see it. I have the privilege, and it's not something that I share. I don't, all my social media, I don't put no weapons up, because you don't need to know.
No.
You don't need to know. I work really close with who installs and manufactures the bins luckily through the police. And sometimes I can be present. It's Operation Scepter when they open it. And they are coming in. There's a lot more out there, but I think it's changing. A lot of big sentences have been given out in the last couple of years. And you've got 15, 16-year-olds, and they're going away. Like, their parole dates are like 20. Someone rang today and said, oh, the young man's got his parole date is 2039. And I said, oh, you know, because it's like, it's a long time. And 2042, just before you go for parole. And I'm like, that's a long time for that individual now to try and get themselves educated and change their life. But they are coming in, and it is working. Absolutely. And I think by taking them from the stations, the state police station was kind of blocking it, I would say. Do you think the bins within the communities? Yeah, I think they're great. Okay. Yeah, I think it's really working. I think we need to just keep them maintained, which I'm always on people's tails. So keep them maintained, and they're coming out and just emphasising on them that they're there to be used, not to sit on them. So now they got the tops, so you can't sit on them. So if you look at them, they're like a pyramid shape. They all drawl on it, which is standard. I don't mind a bit of graffiti, but just as long as they're maintained, they can be used. And I think that's my encouragement, is to get it in. That's really good. Yeah.
And I can't believe I didn't mention blunt truth when I was talking about
problem.
exactly that. The work that's done around that prevention piece, the education piece, and the presence, really good.
Oh, thank you, Claire.
Yeah.
I wonder as well with that, when you were saying about the film, one of the things I've noticed more recently, actually in Ashton Park, where we've done that thing years ago, was particularly young people growing up now. They haven't been to youth provisions. They don't know what they are.
No.
They literally don't know what a youth worker is. They've never experienced it. So a lot of their time is on a phone. Like when I went in there and spoke about potential of something we might be doing in that area, young people that went through a program and set up something called Creative Club for other young people in that area. And you're chatting to students and they've got no idea what it's literally, there's a break in generations. They've got no idea what it is. So then you're saying, what are you doing then? And granted, when you're having a quick conversation with someone you've never met before, as a young person, you're not sure they're going to tell you everything that, you know, what they do or what they don't. But seriously, the general kind of theme is not much. On the phone, might go around a friend's house, might, you know.
And then sit on the phone with them.
Yeah. In the same room.
But it used to be that you would worry about young people going out of their house, and now, because I can't believe we haven't really touched on a lot of the online harms so
well,
far,
I think that's
but we now have reason to worry about children staying in their
bedrooms.
homes.
And what are they looking at? And this is the point I was going to say to you, Kris. It's like, is that film? Because I know you'll probably use it for the face-to-face sessions and stuff you do in schools.
Yeah.
Is that needs to somehow be out there massively? Social media really promoted, so it's everywhere, because it feels to me like, you know, even going back to the 7-8 year olds, you know, and then going from year 6 up to secondary school, like the days of those young people knowing some of the older kids through youth provisions and other things because they would have been spending time with them, unless they got older brothers or sisters or they know them from the community, they don't know, so they suddenly turn up. Where are they learning their social skills and how to survive from? Online. So we're not surprised that we're getting massive problems. So I think there's something in that, isn't there, getting that stuff out.
But news travels
if
you've got something good to offer.
Yeah.
So it's that, it's if you like, it's the reverse of grooming, that you are attracting young people to doing something else, whether it's creative skills, sports, and actually
you just need to
provide hanging out with other people.
Be there long enough for
we
them
are
to
human
come.
and we like other people. So
just find influencers and put it out there.
Build it and they will come.
Yeah,
they
will.
I absolutely agree. Build it.
Yeah.
And stay there long
favourite
enough.
film, Claire, Field of Dreams, lovely. Fantastic.
Once it goes on
Basically,
social media, they'll see it, I think.
That's right, if you get the right people that look at it and you need to pump it out there. But you said something interesting. I was thinking about this earlier as well, because I've seen the question, Tanika just basically, whatever the question is, it is.
Yeah.
I thought, that sounds a bit similar to that one. I was like, okay, no, but we'll go with that. But then it was that conversation, because she ended up doing the GAP program with us, which was 18 to 30 year olds, and that is a huge gap, isn't it? If you think of like what is out there now, there's not that many pubs, there's not that many things full stop for young people now, so it is online bits and pieces. And then when you think about, I was shocked when I heard this, I'm sure you all know it anyway, the most amount of NEETs in Europe ever are in the UK now, between 18 to 30 now.
Not in education,
So-
employment or training.
So
do you know what I mean?
difficult
But then,
for them.
like, we that's one thing which is horrendous, because we all know a lot of us hold our identity with what we do work-wise, and obviously bring the money in to get out of poverty, all that. But then just like the social things, they haven't grown up with youth provisions,
No.
based on what I just said, so they haven't had that kind of socialisation in that. Then suddenly, you're getting coming of age, and I'm sure we all did it, we all went to the pubs and all the rest of it.
There
Do you know
ain't
what I mean? There's not, it's normal, isn't it? It's a rite of passage. You don't have to drink, it's not for every culture, I don't get that, but that has been ours. And those places don't exist either. So it's just like, I'm not finishing it on a doom and gloom, but I think like it is a wider thing. If young people can't move out of home until I don't know how old they are, then actually, is it 25 still? I think really we should be supporting people that need it up until the age of 30, because if they can't get a job, they can't get out of the house, they can't leave their community, what?
But it kind of loops back to where we started with, this is complex.
Yeah.
There's no silver bullet to
No.
resolving any of these issues. Be it our primary school kids, or be it the those who are 18 plus, up to 30 or whatever. We've got to bring a whole society approach to this. There's no one single service that can solve it. It's certainly not going to police our way out of some of these problems.
No.
But you've got to look from all angles towards how we support our young people and give them the best chance for them to become the people they can be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Difficult, but it's possible. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, really, to start with. Intervention's key, and then providing diverse offerings as people get older. And then obviously something needs to happen with employment. Sounds very simple, so doesn't it? Solved it. It's good to go.
It's all resolved. Thank you very much.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks for sharing all your
Thank
thoughts.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Cheers.